Ashley Bocanegra was born in the Bronx, one of New York City's 5 boroughs. She was raised by her mother along with her older sister. There is no public information about her father, and it remains unclear whether he was involved in Ashley's life. The family lived modestly but maintained a stable lifestyle. Ashley was outgoing and energetic. She took pride in her appearance and had a strong interest in makeup. From a young age, she enjoyed experimenting with different styles, which made her stand out among her peers. After high school, she did not pursue a specific career path right away. Instead, she worked in retail while trying to figure out her future, but she did not have any firm plans. Around this time, she met a young man with whom she soon developed a serious relationship. They spent a lot of time together, and eventually, Ashley found out she was expecting. The pregnancy was unplanned, but they both decided to embrace this new chapter in their lives and moved in together. In 2014, Ashley gave birth to a son whose name has not been publicly disclosed out of respect for his privacy. The arrival of their son marked a significant shift. Ashley became fully focused on being a mother. Despite being young, her partner stepped up and participated in raising their child. Life in New York City was becoming increasingly challenging, with rising rent and piling daily expenses. By early 2015, they decided to move to Atlanta, Georgia, a city with more affordable housing and a slower pace of life that was not too far from extended family. This move represented a fresh start for them. They secured an apartment in a residential complex that had security cameras and on-site staff. Visually, the neighborhood appeared safe, and they hoped it would be a place to rebuild their daily lives. Although their romantic relationship eventually came to an end, they continued to live under the same roof for the sake of their son. They agreed to keep their personal lives separate until their son was older. Ashley took on most of the household responsibilities and began looking for a stable job. Eventually, she landed a position at a home improvement store, working the night shift. This arrangement allowed her to be at home during the day. It was a tough schedule, but it helped her improve her financial situation. Ashley was working toward creating stability and gradually gaining independence from her former partner, all while maintaining peaceful family dynamics. As Ashley adjusted to the demanding rhythm of overnight work, she became familiar with the store's routine. Most of her shifts took place on weeknights, and she was consistently scheduled with the same group of co-workers. This consistency helped form close-knit working relationships. It was in this environment that she first took notice of Daniel Gonzalez. He also worked at the same home improvement store and was usually scheduled on the same nights. Their conversations began with routine work-related questions. Daniel was proactive. He did not shy away from hard tasks and often volunteered for demanding assignments. He came across as calm, polite, and friendly. Although he wasn't pushy, he was often nearby when Ashley needed an extra hand. Over time, they developed a steady rapport. What started as brief exchanges during breaks slowly evolved into real conversations, and Ashley felt at ease around him. There was no pressure or signs of him pushing boundaries. Daniel earned her trust. He avoided discussing personal matters and never made suggestive remarks, but it was clear he was interested. He asked about her day, showed concern for her well-being, and offered to help even when she had not asked for it. This set him apart from the rest of the crew. With each shift, their connection grew. Eventually, they exchanged numbers and began texting outside of work. Their messages quickly turned into a regular flow of jokes, short chats about everyday life, and occasionally planning to meet before work. Their bond transcended that of mere co-workers, yet there was nothing overtly romantic about it. Everything felt natural. No one was rushing into anything, and neither made any direct moves. At that time, Ashley was unaware of Daniel's personal life. Neither he nor their co-workers mentioned that he was living with a woman and their children. Daniel never discussed who shared his home. There were no indications that he was in a relationship. In normal conversations, he seemed calm and composed, displaying no signs of stress or complicated domestic issues. They eventually realized they were neighbors living in the same apartment complex. They discovered this by chance during a conversation about their neighborhood. This made it easy for them to see each other not only at work but also during the day. Sometimes, Daniel would help Ashley carry her groceries, or they would bump into each other in the parking lot, where he would walk her to her building. To Ashley, this felt like a comfortable friendship with a reliable coworker. His proximity and willingness to help were nice perks, making him seem thoughtful. She was unaware of his actual circumstances. At the time of these events, Daniel Gonzalez was a 27-year-old living in Atlanta, Georgia. He was in a long-term relationship with Antonetta Stevens, a woman of the same age, although they were not legally married. They had been together for over a decade, having known each other since childhood, as their families were longtime friends. Throughout their relationship, they became parents to 2 sons, aged 9 and 6. However, their home life was more complicated than it appeared. Daniel and Antonetta's relationship had become increasingly strained over the years, with arguments happening more often. While most disagreements arose from everyday issues, they frequently escalated into larger conflicts. People close to them described Antonetta as having a quick temper. She could quickly shift from calm to confrontational over minor annoyances. This tendency was noticeable not only to Daniel but also to others in their circle. Daniel seldom discussed his home life with his colleagues. Only a few close friends were aware of his personal struggles, which he kept private. However, the ongoing stress at home began to take a toll on him. His relationship with Antonetta shifted from one of love to a focus on logistics, with conversations revolving around parenting, bills, and household chores. Although they still appeared as a couple to outsiders, their emotional connection was diminishing. During this time, Daniel's younger sister, Janine Gonzalez, who was 17 and had recently dropped out of school, moved in with them. She lacked a clear direction, needed a new environment to get back on track. Janine quickly bonded with Antonetta due to their shared history, having known each other since childhood and considering each other more like sisters than in-laws. In contrast, Daniel did not have a strong relationship with Janine. The presence of a third adult in the household did not reduce the tension, in fact, it increased it. Janine frequently witnessed the arguments between Daniel and Antonetta. Eventually, she began to take sides, clearly supporting Antonetta. Those familiar with the family noted that Janine openly expressed her belief that Daniel was responsible for the ongoing conflicts. This alliance between Janine and Antonetta only widened the emotional gap in the household, leaving Daniel feeling isolated. By the time Daniel started spending more time with Ashley, he was already feeling disconnected. His partner was irritable, their sons required constant attention, and his sister emotionally sided with Antonetta. The home atmosphere felt strained and unwelcoming. Daniel began spending more time outside of his home, taking extra shifts at work and staying later as a way to avoid conflicts in his life. Although these choices would later impact his decisions, he didn't express any strong desire to change his situation at that time. After a few weeks of talking at work and texting outside of their shifts, Ashley and Daniel started to meet up more often outside of work. Their conversations shifted from casual workplace topics to more personal subjects. They discussed feelings of tiredness, daily routines, and the challenges of parenting. Ashley shared her experiences raising her son, her complicated relationship with her partner, and her hopes of moving out to live independently. Daniel listened closely, he didn't interrupt her, kept the conversation flowing, and engaged with their shared difficulties. He never mentioned that he lived with a partner and 2 sons, nor did he talk about his sister. As Ashley and Daniel's relationship grew stronger, they began spending more time together. Sometimes, they would meet briefly before her shifts, while other times, they would talk outside her building. Over time, Daniel started to stay a bit longer. He would visit in the evenings, help her prepare dinner, and hang out while her son watched TV. This development felt gradual and natural, not sudden. Ashley didn't ask many questions, and Daniel didn't give her any reasons to doubt him. At that point, neither her son nor their coworkers intervened. Ashley enjoyed her independence. Everything appeared harmless from an outside perspective. Back at Daniel's apartment, things were starting to change. Antonetta and Janine began to pay closer attention to his schedule. Daniel was spending more time away from home, which did not escape their notice. Janine, who was usually at home, started to see a pattern. Daniel would leave without telling anyone where he was going and would often return later than expected. Though she didn't know his exact whereabouts, she began to keep track of his comings and goings. Eventually, she shared her concerns with Antonetta, and their suspicions grew. While Antonetta didn't confront Daniel immediately, his behavior made her feel uncomfortable. One day, Janine noticed something that confirmed her suspicions. Daniel was often seen with the same woman in the apartment complex parking lot. Although she didn't know Ashley's name yet, her appearance stuck in Janine's mind. Janine observed their conversations and noticed there were no inappropriate gestures, touching, or flirting, nothing that clearly crossed any boundaries. However, this situation raised her concerns. She didn't jump to conclusions, but from that moment, she started paying more attention. While Ashley viewed these meetings as casual and innocent, the atmosphere in Daniel's apartment became increasingly tense. Antonetta moved beyond just asking questions. She began checking his phone and closely monitoring his behavior. Although she had no solid evidence, the signs were accumulating. As a result, the trust between them began to erode. Ashley remained oblivious to any underlying issues. Daniel frequently visited, offering assistance and chatting about everyday matters, which seemed to strengthen their relationship. However, underneath these casual conversations, subtle changes were occurring. In the summer of 2022, Daniel, Antonetta, their sons, and Janine traveled to Florida for Antonetta's mother's wedding. They planned to spend a week with extended family, blending celebrations with a short vacation. The road trip was long, and they stayed at a relative's house. Despite the happy occasion, tension between Daniel and Antonetta was evident from the start. They argued during the drive over minor issues related to planning, coordination, and exhaustion. Upon arrival, the situation did not improve. Conflicts arose almost every day, and Antonetta's relatives noticed the strain in their relationship. By midweek, disagreements escalated over trivial matters. The tone of their exchanges turned increasingly sharp and irritable. Daniel often ended conversations abruptly, emotionally withdrew, and spent more time absorbed in his phone or stepping outside for solitude. Antonetta observed these changes and tried to remain calm, but her patience was wearing thin. After the wedding ceremony, while most guests were relaxing, a pivotal moment took place. Daniel, feeling tired and having had a few drinks, was outside in the yard talking to Janine. During their conversation, he expressed that he was exhausted from his relationship with Antonetta and didn't see a future with her. He also revealed that there was someone else in his life, without disclosing the name, but indicated it was a co-worker. Janine listened attentively, keeping her response neutral, though she was clearly processing the information. This conversation became a turning point. Feeling more loyal to Antonetta than to her own brother, Janine decided to share what she had learned. She informed Antonetta that Daniel had admitted to seeing someone else. To her surprise, Antonetta remained calm. Rather than confronting him right away, she chose to be strategic. Her priority was to identify the other woman. They agreed to keep their suspicions quiet and to closely monitor Daniel's behavior. Janine fully supported this plan, and they made a pact: no actions would be taken until they returned to Atlanta. Antonetta kept a calm, cheerful demeanor around her family for the rest of the trip. Though everything appeared peaceful on the surface, she was quietly strategizing to find out who the woman was. After returning from Florida, the mood in Daniel's apartment shifted. Antonetta and Janine didn't mention the wedding conversation, but they began to execute a plan they had developed in secrecy. Their goal was to find out if Daniel was really involved with a coworker. Instead of asking him directly, they decided to observe his habits and behavior. Since neither Antonetta nor Janine had full-time jobs at that moment, they spent most of their days at home, which allowed them to watch Daniel closely. Janine took note of when he left the apartment, who he interacted with, and how he acted when he returned. They also started checking Daniel's phone whenever it was left unattended or unlocked to look for notifications or messages. A few days after returning, Janine reported seeing Daniel leaving work with a young woman. They were outside, smoking and chatting. Janine noted that while their interaction didn't seem overtly romantic, there was a comfortable rapport between them. She remembered the woman's appearance, and when she described her, Antonetta suspected it might be their neighbor, Ashley. Antonetta recalled seeing Ashley in the complex courtyard occasionally, usually with her son. That evening, they decided to watch for Ashley to see if she would appear again. Over the next few days, Antonetta and Janine took turns watching the apartment entrance and the area surrounding the store to confirm whether it was indeed Ashley with Daniel. Their surveillance eventually paid off. They saw Daniel and Ashley talking and then going their separate ways. With this confirmation, they moved forward and took action. Antonetta proposed using Daniel's phone while he slept to message Ashley and lure her into a meeting, setting up a direct confrontation. Janine agreed with the plan. They now had a clear objective. It was no longer just about revealing the truth, it had turned personal. They wanted revenge. The next morning, after finishing a night shift, Daniel came home and went to sleep as usual, briefly chatting with Antonetta before heading to the bedroom. Once he was asleep, she quietly entered the room, took his phone, and brought it to Janine. Together, they started scrolling through his messages. It didn't take long to find what they were looking for. In his chat with Ashley, they found personal messages filled with emotional significance, mentions of past meetings, and small details that confirmed the two were in constant contact. That was all the confirmation they needed to move on to the next step. Antonetta used Daniel's phone to send a text to Ashley. She explained that Daniel had an argument at home, was kicked out, and wanted to meet. Ashley responded quickly, asking for his location and how to find him. Their conversation seemed typical for two people who know each other well, so Ashley was unaware that she was not actually communicating with Daniel. Antonetta kept the tone light and casual to prevent any suspicion. After exchanging a few more messages, Antonetta proposed they meet in the courtyard of their apartment complex, a small grassy area between the buildings, and Ashley agreed. After arranging the meetup, Antonetta and Janine started getting ready. They brought Janine's phone to record what would happen. They were unarmed and planned to lure Ashley outside to confront her unexpectedly and escalate things physically. Their intention was not just to have a conversation but to make a statement. They carefully chose the location. It was close enough to nearby buildings for visibility but out of sight from the main entrances. While there were surveillance cameras in common areas, they didn't cover this specific spot, offering a sense of privacy within the complex. At that time, Daniel was asleep, completely unaware that his phone was being used. Early in the morning, Antonetta and Janine left the apartment, leaving Daniel and the boys behind. They positioned themselves behind some bushes near a pedestrian path. The area was shaded and slightly away from the building entrances, but still on public property. Visibility was limited, although someone walking by might notice them. They waited. When Ashley texted to say she was on her way, Antonetta made sure the phone was recording and instructed Janine to continue filming no matter what. Minutes later, Ashley walked down the path, completely unaware of the danger that awaited her. As she neared her destination, she scanned the area, hoping to see Daniel. Suddenly, Antonetta and Janine emerged from their hiding place. Antonetta approached Ashley and loudly claimed that Ashley stopped texting Daniel. Before Ashley could reply, Antonetta attacked her. Ashley did not fight back. Instead, she tried to defend herself by covering her face with her hands and begging Antonetta to stop. Despite her pleas, Antonetta continued to hit her. Eventually, Antonetta knocked Ashley to the ground and continued to assault her with her fists and feet. At one point, she grabbed Ashley's hair and slammed her head against the pavement. Janine chose not to intervene and instead stayed on the sidelines, recording the events. Occasionally, she provided commentary, encouraging Antonetta to be more aggressive. At one point, she moved closer to capture a shot of Ashley's face, who was crying and pleading for them to stop. Despite Ashley's distress, the aggression continued. Antonetta yelled accusations, made threats, and claimed she was acting for Daniel. At one moment, she looked directly into the camera and told Janine to keep filming. Some cars drove by, but no one intervened. One vehicle stopped for a moment but then quickly left the scene. The conflict escalated when Antonetta invited Janine to participate. Janine accepted, approached, and delivered a few kicks. Afterward, both of them took Ashley's phone and walked away, with the recording still running until they left the area. Following the attack, Ashley lay on the pavement. Although she was seriously injured, she was conscious. After some time on the ground, she gradually stood up. She was unsteady. Despite the pain, she started walking toward her building. Later, surveillance footage from the apartment complex showed Ashley entering. Her steps were shaky, and her movements were slow. She was holding her side and chest, and her face had visible scrapes. Her breathing seemed labored. As soon as she reached her floor, Ashley stepped out onto the balcony and leaned against the railing to catch her breath. At that moment, her partner was coming home from his morning run. Upon entering the apartment, he quickly noticed that Ashley looked unwell. She was pale, had swollen lips, and visible cuts on her face. Her breathing was heavy, and she moved slowly. Her clothes were dirty, had some blood on them. Concerned, he asked her what had happened. Ashley responded vaguely, saying she had been attacked by two unfamiliar women but did not provide any names or reasons for the attack. She might have been too frightened or still in shock to explain further. Sensing the seriousness of the situation, her partner helped her sit down and got her some water, but her condition worsened. She struggled to breathe, experienced sharp pain in her side and head. Any movement caused her intense discomfort. A few minutes later, he took her to the nearest hospital. In the emergency room, doctors assessed Ashley's condition and quickly decided to transfer her to intensive care due to its critical nature. Medical staff observed multiple bruises, broken ribs, and potential internal injuries. Additionally, she suffered a head injury. Meanwhile, her partner stayed at the hospital, anxiously awaiting news. Ashley was put on life support and sedated, but her condition worsened. Several hours after the assault, local law enforcement arrived at the apartment complex in response to reports of a possible fight from witnesses. When the officers reached the apartment shared by Antonetta, Daniel, their sons, and Janine, Daniel was not at home. Antonetta answered the door and spoke to the officers in a calm and composed manner. She explained that an uninvited woman had arrived at their door, started an argument, and became physically aggressive. Antonetta stated that she did not know the woman and that it was the woman who initiated the confrontation. She characterized the incident as a mutual fight, mentioning that both had exchanged blows. Antonetta also noted that the woman had been previously harassing her partner at work and had come to their home to continue the harassment. She made it clear that she had not left the apartment before the incident to support her version of events. At this point, the officers had not received a formal complaint from the injured party, did not know the identity of the other person involved, and had no direct evidence of the assault. While Antonetta's account was consistent, it did not match the known facts. Doctors at the first hospital where Ashley was treated had alerted local authorities because of the seriousness of her condition. However, when police arrived at the apartment complex, the medical report was not connected to the attack. Information about Ashley's injuries and her identity came to light later. The police left the apartment without filing an official report. They only documented a verbal statement. They did not conduct a search or collect phones as evidence, which resulted in the loss of important materials. At this point, Antonetta and Janine were unaware that they would soon be named as official suspects. After the initial examination in the emergency room, doctors suspected Ashley had suffered serious internal injuries. Although she was conscious, she was having difficulty breathing and could barely respond to questions. A CT scan showed multiple severe injuries. Broken ribs punctured her lungs, there was internal bleeding around her liver and abdomen, and she had a significant brain injury with swelling. Since the hospital lacked the necessary resources for urgent neurosurgery and abdominal procedures, doctors decided to transfer her immediately to a specialized trauma center. Ashley was put on a ventilator and sedated into a medically induced coma. She was airlifted to a hospital in another part of the state, where a team of trauma surgeons and critical care doctors was ready to assist. Upon her arrival, Ashley was taken straight to the operating room. The surgeons worked to stop the internal bleeding and stabilize her vital signs, but the injuries were too severe. Her liver was partially torn, and there was significant bleeding in her abdominal cavity. During the surgery, it became evident that her injuries were not survivable. About an hour after her transfer, Ashley suffered cardiac arrest. Medical teams performed CPR for 30 minutes but could not revive her. She was pronounced dead early that morning, just a few hours after the incident. While this was happening, hospital staff submitted a report to the local police department stating that a patient showed signs of having been attacked. As Ashley was being moved, this information was relayed to the on-call officer. However, it had not yet been linked to an earlier visit by officers to the complex. Ashley's death changed the legal context of the case. The police department received the hospital's report, which indicated that the situation had turned fatal. Officers quickly connected this update to the previous complaint about a physical altercation and realized that both incidents occurred at the same address. The deceased's last name was verified through medical records and matched with entries associated with the apartment complex. The police leadership decided to send officers back to Antonetta's apartment. By this time, they no longer considered it a simple domestic dispute. The situation was being seen as a potential felony that could result in death. This initiated a formal criminal investigation. Authorities also requested Ashley's complete medical records to assess the severity and nature of her injuries. The initial medical report revealed that her injuries could not have occurred from a minor fight or mutual confrontation. The trauma to her head, chest, and internal organs indicated she had suffered a severe beating. There were multiple blows aimed at vital areas. Additionally, there were no signs of defensive wounds or any indication that she fought back, suggesting that the victim likely did not defend herself during the attack. Following the medical findings, the forensic report, and surveillance footage from the apartment complex, a criminal case was officially opened. After confirming Ashley's death, investigators returned to the complex, arrested Antonetta and Janine. They were taken to the precinct and interviewed separately starting immediately. Antonetta seemed calm but distant during her questioning. She avoided making eye contact, spoke in a low voice, and gave unclear answers. She provided short responses and repeated the same story she had told earlier, that Ashley had come to their home uninvited, started an argument, and threw the first punch. She did not mention any text messages, a pre-arranged meeting, or the use of Daniel's phone. Antonetta maintained that the incident was unplanned and that she acted solely in self-defense. When detectives highlighted discrepancies between her account and the medical evidence, she did not respond. After answering a few more questions, she requested a lawyer and ended the interview. Janine's interrogation took an unexpectedly relaxed turn. She entered the room confidently and spoke freely, showing no signs of nervousness. At times, she even laughed and made sarcastic remarks, behaving more like she was chatting with friends than talking to law enforcement. The detectives mirrored her casual tone and avoided any confrontational approach, which proved effective. Janine began to share details openly about the events, including some information that hadn't been revealed before. She openly explained how Daniel had admitted to seeing someone else, how she had passed that information to Antonetta, and how they devised a plan to message Ashley using Daniel's phone. She also detailed who initially suggested recording the encounter and how they concealed themselves until Ashley arrived. Janine's account of the confrontation was particularly striking. She openly admitted to being physically aggressive, stating that she joined in because she was invited to participate. She even described the incident as amusing. The detectives documented her statements but did not interrupt her. They maintained neutral expressions, allowing her to express herself freely. During the questioning, Janine confirmed that she had recorded the incident on her phone and still had the footage saved. She revealed almost everything Antonetta had tried to hide. Her statements were officially noted. Janine's emotional distance and complete lack of remorse strengthened the evidence that the attack was not only intentional but also planned in advance. After the interviews, investigators obtained search warrants and seized phones from everyone involved, including Janine's. Her phone contained a full video recording of the assault. The footage showed that Ashley did not fight back, and the attacks were carried out methodically with clear intent. The audio also captured mocking remarks, threats, and statements indicating that the attack was premeditated. Daniel's phone showed a message thread where Antonetta pretended to be him to set up the meeting. This was clear proof of the trick used to put Ashley in danger. As a result, Antonetta and Janine were charged with serious crimes, including felony assault and robbery. Their arrests were part of a larger criminal investigation. The charges were explained to them, highlighting the serious legal consequences they faced. Both were arrested without any resistance, but officers closely monitored the situation. Daniel later learned about the events that unfolded. When the arrests took place, he was at work. Officers came to his workplace to inform him of Ashley's death and the charges against Antonetta and Janine. He was heartbroken, having no knowledge of the revenge plan, the impersonation using his phone, or the attack itself. He stated that he could never have predicted that things would turn into such a tragedy. Daniel was asked to provide a formal statement. He confirmed that Ashley had never been a threat to anyone and that their relationship was not a secret. He also mentioned that he had never given his phone to anyone and was unaware of any messages sent from it. His account aligned with the evidence gathered, leading investigators to conclude that he was not involved in the crime. He expressed his willingness to cooperate fully and may be called to testify in court, as the fatal setup was carried out using his digital identity without his knowledge. Both suspects were found guilty and sentenced to 20 years in prison at Arendelle State Prison in Georgia. Janine, who was only 17 at the time, was tried as an adult because of the seriousness of the crime. If she doesn't face any disciplinary issues while in prison, she will be released when she is about 37 years old. The impact of the crime was severe. Ashley's son lost his mother. Custody of the child was awarded to his father, who had been involved in his son's life even after he and Ashley ended their relationship. Now, he has taken on full responsibility, working to create a stable and safe environment for his son amidst the profound loss. Daniel and Antonetta's two sons also experienced the loss of their mother. Since Daniel was not implicated in the crime, he retained custody of the children and continued to raise them on his own. Despite the trauma of losing Ashley and the emotional burden of knowing their mother would be in prison for decades, Daniel remained dedicated to his role as a father. Both families were deeply affected. One child lost his mother, while Daniel's two sons were also left without their mother. What began as a situation fueled by jealousy and betrayal ended in tragedy, incarceration, and lasting pain for those who were innocent in this situation. The young lives impacted will always feel the effects of a crime they did not commit and will never fully escape from it. Lauren and William Heaven adopted a newborn baby girl named Erin in the summer of 1994. From the start, Erin became a cherished member of the family, receiving the same love and care as their biological children. Over the years, she forged a strong bond with her foster sisters, creating a close-knit family that offered mutual support and encouragement. The Heaven family felt that Erin had something special and knew she was meant to be a part of their family. Growing up, Erin was shy and reserved, often struggling to connect with others. However, she found comfort in her passion for horses. From a young age, Erin developed a natural affinity for animals, and riding allowed her to express her true self. The East Tennessee Riding Club became a refuge for her, a place to escape life's pressures. At the riding club, Erin discovered a sense of belonging and friendship. The horses created a supportive environment where she could explore her feelings and build her inner strength. She spent countless hours in the stables, grooming and riding, finding peace in the equestrian lifestyle. Lauren had strict rules for her daughters, especially regarding dating. When Erin met Jonathan Corwin, she realized he was someone special, kind, respectful, and genuinely interested in her. Knowing her parents' strict guidelines, Erin hesitated to introduce Jonathan to the family. After careful thought, she decided to share her parents' expectations with him, knowing that their approval would be necessary if they were to pursue a relationship. Jonathan respected the importance of Erin's family values and took the initiative to ask Lauren and William for permission to date her. They were pleasantly surprised by his approach, appreciating his willingness to honor their expectations and recognize the significance of family. Over time, he became an important part of their lives, respecting their traditions and supporting them during tough times. He swiftly gained their trust and affection. As his relationship with Erin deepened, they officially became a couple, and it felt like he was more than just her boyfriend. He was now part of the family. Jonathan blended in well with the Heaven sisters, spending quality time with them and creating lasting memories. After graduating high school, he chose to enlist in the Marines out of a strong sense of duty. On Erin's 18th birthday, he surprised her with a proposal. Nervous but excited, he knelt down and posed the question he had been eager to ask. Erin's face lit up with joy as she eagerly exclaimed, "Yes." Lauren and William were thrilled for their daughter, confident in the strength of her relationship with Jonathan and believing he was the right choice for her. However, they were also aware of the sacrifices and challenges that come with being a military spouse. They worried about their daughter, knowing there would be times when she would be away from her family and that they would miss her deeply. Erin and Jonathan got married in Las Vegas after the Marine Corps Ball. After Jonathan finished basic training, he was stationed at the 29 Palms Marine Base in California. In 2013, while there, Erin and Jonathan learned they were expecting their first child. Sadly, just a few months later, they lost the baby. The news was devastating for both of them, particularly for Erin. During this difficult time, Jonathan did his best to support and comfort her. 4 months later, Erin took a pregnancy test and was overjoyed to find out it was positive. Eager to share the news, she decided to wait for her mother Lauren's visit to California in June, believing it would be more special to see her reaction in person. Along with announcing her pregnancy, Erin and Lauren planned to visit attractions in San Diego, such as SeaWorld and the zoo, looking forward to spending quality time together. They also intended to explore hiking trails in Joshua Tree National Park during Lauren's visit. Erin planned to go to the park on June 28th. Before leaving, she said goodbye to Jonathan, telling him that she loved him. Jonathan expected Erin to return by late afternoon, but as the hours passed without her home, he grew worried. He called her more than 50 times, but there was no response. The next morning, June 29th, Jonathan reached out to Lauren in Tennessee, explaining that Erin hadn't come home the previous day. Lauren was immediately concerned, especially given Erin's pregnancy and the heat. Lauren feared that Erin might be lost in the park and was worried about how much water she had with her. Jonathan then contacted the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department to report his wife as missing, providing details about Erin's last known location and asking for help in finding her. The detective assigned to the case considered the possibility that Erin had driven to Tennessee to see her mother, Lauren, but Lauren firmly rejected this idea, noting that Erin disliked driving and had a poor sense of direction. To search for Erin, Jonathan and his Marine friends went to Joshua Tree National Park, a vast 800,000-acre area of rugged desert terrain. This challenging environment, combined with the intense heat of late June, made the search even harder. As the detective looked into Erin's disappearance, he began to explore the state of Erin and Jonathan's marriage. Although they seemed like an ideal couple, he quickly found that things were not as they appeared. In reality, their marriage had been under strain since the loss of their baby. Erin's mental health had suffered greatly, leading her into a deep depression that impacted every aspect of her life, including her relationship with Jonathan. The investigation also revealed that they were dealing with financial difficulties. They were burdened by debt, which added to the tension in their marriage. Throughout the investigation, the detective discovered that Erin had formed a close friendship with Christopher and Nicole Lee. Christopher, like Jonathan, was a Marine, which created an initial bond. Additionally, Erin and Nicole shared a love for horses, bringing them even closer together. Nicole introduced Erin to White Rock Horse Rescue Ranch, about 45 minutes from their military base in 29 Palms. This ranch offered Erin a chance to escape her problems and find peace in a serene environment. As Erin's relationship with Jonathan worsened, she became increasingly attached to Christopher. The detective revealed that Christopher, having recently returned from Afghanistan, also faced personal struggles. Their shared experiences and emotional connections through their love of horses created a strong bond. Erin's affection for Christopher's 6-year-old daughter, Liberty, further deepened their relationship. She often babysat Liberty, providing a nurturing atmosphere that strengthened her ties to Christopher and her family. Erin and Christopher spent hours working together at the horse ranch, and initially, it seemed innocent. However, over time, they developed a romantic connection, which caught the attention of Nicole, Christopher's wife. She informed Jonathan, Aaron's husband, that she suspected an affair between Aaron and Christopher. Jonathan was devastated to hear that Aaron had been unfaithful. Despite this betrayal, he loved Aaron deeply and wanted to work on their marriage. Consequently, Aaron ended her relationship with Christopher and reconciled with Jonathan. However, a deeper investigation into Aaron's disappearance revealed a different story. Detectives found evidence that Aaron and Christopher were still involved romantically. This information came from Aaron's close friend, Jessica, who mentioned that on the day Aaron vanished, she had excitedly talked about a special trip with Christopher. Aaron hinted to Jessica that Christopher might propose, despite being married to Jonathan and pregnant with his child. The most shocking detail was when Jessica revealed that Aaron had doubts about who the biological father of her unborn baby was. This revelation broke Jonathan's heart, especially when detectives informed him that Aaron had planned to meet Christopher on the day she disappeared. The news left Jonathan feeling sad and anxious, as he was now considered a potential suspect in her disappearance. He firmly denied any involvement, maintaining his innocence. On June 28, the day Aaron went missing, a woman driving near the entrance to Joshua Tree Park noticed a car parked by the roadside. As she drove past, she saw that the car was still there. Suspicious, she took several photos of the vehicle to document potential evidence. 2 days later, on June 30th, another individual who also noticed the car parked there reported it to the police. When officers arrived, they found that the car was registered to Aaron. The woman who took photos of the car became an important witness in the case. She shared the images with detectives, hoping they could aid the investigation. The detectives focused on the location where Aaron's car was parked at the entrance to Joshua Tree Park. While examining the area, they found a set of shoe prints that formed the loop from the driver's side door to some visible tire tracks. This led them to believe that Aaron had parked her car and then got into another vehicle before she disappeared. Christopher, a person of interest, initially claimed he didn't know Aaron well. However, detectives were aware of their extramarital affair. When confronted about his statements, Christopher said he didn't see it as necessary to share details with the police, thinking it wasn't relevant. Eventually, he admitted to having a romantic relationship with Aaron. Despite his claims, the detectives were skeptical and informed him they had evidence showing Aaron went to Joshua Tree National Park to meet him on the day she disappeared. Christopher acknowledged that they had talked about running away together but insisted he was never serious, citing his love for his 6-year-old daughter, Liberty, and stating that he would never abandon her. Christopher initially denied inviting Aaron to the park with him, claiming that she had only overheard him discussing plans to visit the area. He tried to suggest that she had asked to go along. With no solid evidence against him, detectives bluffingly told him that the tire tracks found at the park matched his vehicle, suggesting he had met Aaron there. This made Christopher nervous, and he confessed that he might have entered the area where Aaron had parked her car, but he claimed he never saw her on the day she vanished. The detectives shifted their attention to the White Rock Horse Rescue Ranch, where Aaron often volunteered to care for horses. They interviewed the ranch owner, who revealed that on the day Aaron disappeared, Christopher's wife, Nicole, had sent a text stating that Christopher wouldn't be at work because he was sick. The following morning, when Christopher and Nicole returned to the ranch, they appeared tense as news of Aaron's disappearance spread. The owner also mentioned that Nicole believed Aaron was pretending to be missing to gain attention. During the investigation, detectives learned that Christopher and his family were planning to move back to Alaska soon, as he was nearing the end of his military service. The ranch owner had allowed Christopher and Nicole to borrow her SUV for transporting their belongings and permitted the detectives to search the vehicle. Inside the SUV, investigators found a potato launcher, which is considered an illegal weapon in California. This discovery led to Christopher's arrest, although he was released on bail on July 5, 2014. A week later, he was discharged from the Marines. Meanwhile, the search for Aaron continued in San Bernardino County. Aaron's husband, Jonathan, passed a polygraph test, indicating he was truthful and not a suspect. At this stage of the investigation, detectives believed that Christopher had lured Aaron to Joshua Tree National Park, where he killed her and disposed of her body in one of the shafts. A breakthrough came when a friend who had accompanied Christopher on a scouting trip provided detectives with photographs from their outing. Using these photos, detectives engaged a cave expert to pinpoint where they were taken in the Mojave Desert. The expert identified the location as the Rose Peru mine. However, since there are multiple mines in the area, Aaron's remains could be in any of them. Determined to find Aaron, a large-scale search of the Rose Peru mine commenced, lasting several weeks as detectives meticulously searched the desert for clues. Despite their extensive efforts, the search did not yield any positive results. Throughout this process, the detectives remained hopeful for closure and justice for Aaron. On August 14, 2014, while searching for a missing woman, a member of the San Bernardino Cave Rescue Team noticed a strong smell of gas coming from a mine. The team quickly sent someone down the mine's shaft to investigate. Inside, they found a human leg, prompting them to swiftly recover the body. Along with the body, they collected several pieces of evidence, including a makeshift torch made from a skirt, a propane tank, and a bottle of Sprite, which were important for the investigation. The body was then taken to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. The examination revealed that the remains were those of Erin Corwin. Further investigation showed that she had a garrote wire around her neck, indicating she had been strangled. A garrote is designed to restrict airflow by putting pressure on the throat or windpipe and usually consists of a handle and a flexible wire. Based on the evidence found at the scene, an arrest warrant was issued for Christopher Lee, charging him with first-degree murder in connection with Aaron's disappearance and death. During the trial, multiple witnesses testified that Christopher had expressed interest in how to dispose of a body in the weeks before Aaron went missing. Their testimonies bolstered the prosecution's case against him. One of his friends recalled seeing a white propane tank in his car that was similar to the one found with Aaron's body. When asked about the propane tank, he allegedly stated that he planned to blow up a mine. A close friend of Aaron testified that Aaron was in love with Christopher and intended to leave her husband, Jonathan, for him. On the day Aaron disappeared, she was excited about a special trip to Joshua Tree National Park with Christopher. During Christopher's trial, a DNA expert from the crime lab testified about evidence found at the scene. The expert revealed that the green t-shirt, which was used to make a homemade torch found near Aaron's body in the mine, had Christopher's DNA on it. Additionally, DNA from both Aaron and Christopher was found on a swab taken from the mouth of a Sprite bottle discovered beside Aaron's body. The prosecution's theory in Aaron's murder case was that Christopher took her to Joshua Tree National Park under the pretense of a romantic getaway but with harmful intentions. They claimed that Christopher met Aaron at the park entrance and convinced her to get into his car. Instead of driving her to scenic spots or hiking trails, he allegedly took her to the Rose Peru mine. There, he is accused of strangling her with a garrote and then disposing of her body in the mine shaft. To eliminate any evidence linking him to the crime, he attempted to blow up the mine using a homemade torch made from his t-shirt and a propane tank. His goal was to destroy Aaron's body and any evidence against him. However, for unknown reasons, he ultimately did not carry out the explosion. Christopher testified in his own defense, explaining to the jury that he had always intended to leave the United States Marine Corps by June 2014 to start a new chapter in his life. He also mentioned that he planned to break up with Aaron and move to Alaska with his wife and daughter. On June 28, he had organized a hunting trip with Aaron, hoping it would provide an opportunity for an open conversation. Christopher picked Aaron up at the entrance of the park and drove her to the Rose Peru mine, a remote area known for its beauty. However, Aaron expressed concerns about the location's safety and decided to stay in the car while Christopher unloaded his supplies. Once back at the car, where Aaron was listening to music, they began to talk. Christopher told Aaron about his plans to relocate to Alaska, and she expressed a desire to join him, emphasizing her wish to be part of his daughter's life. However, Christopher held a troubling perspective. He believed that his wife, Nicole, had discovered their daughter was being abused and that Aaron was responsible. While sitting in the car near the mine, he confronted Aaron about whether she had touched his daughter inappropriately. Aaron became visibly nervous and, while stuttering, admitted to the abuse, which deeply upset Christopher and made him determined to protect his daughter. Christopher admitted to the jury that learning of the abuse filled him with anger towards Aaron. Concerned for his daughter's safety, he left the truck to retrieve his garrote, intending to punish Aaron for her actions. He then strangled her to death and dragged her body into the mine shaft to ensure she would not be found. Christopher Lee was found guilty of Aaron Corwin's murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Aaron's husband, Jonathan Corwin, strongly denies Christopher's claim that Aaron abused Christopher and Nicole's daughter. The detectives and prosecutor involved in the case have expressed their disbelief and disgust at these allegations, asserting that anyone who knew Aaron would understand she was incapable of harming that child. The story of Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, known as War Machine, is both intriguing and unsettling. He transitioned from being a rising star on a reality TV show to a controversial mixed martial artist and successful adult film actor, ultimately becoming a convicted criminal serving a life sentence. Throughout his career, he crafted an image as a bold and confrontational person, which contributed to his popularity. However, over time, the distinction between his fighting persona and his true self began to fade. He didn't just compete in the screen, his entire life started to resemble a constant struggle. Jonathan was born on November 30, 1981, in Simi Valley, a suburban area near Los Angeles. He was the oldest of 3 children in a working-class family. His father, of German descent, was a dedicated officer with the Los Angeles Police Department, known for his hard work and discipline. His mother, who had Mexican ancestry, initially worked as a nurse at a local hospital but chose to leave her job after having their first child to focus on raising the family and managing the household. Jonathan, often called John, had a close relationship with his younger brother and sister. For a while, their home life was happy and stable. However, after the birth of their youngest sibling, their mother started to experience significant emotional struggles. She fell into a long-term depression and turned to alcohol for relief. What began as a way to cope quickly became a daily habit. Meanwhile, their father worked long hours and was often away from home, unaware of the worsening situation. As time went on, their mother's condition deteriorated further. She began using banned substance. By the time Jonathan was 10 years old, he had become the primary caregiver for his siblings and even his mother. He was performing well in school, helping his younger siblings with their homework, learning to cook, and managing household duties. However, everything changed when Jonathan was 13. He faced a traumatic event that would affect him for life. One evening, while the entire family was at home, his father suddenly collapsed due to a heart emergency. Their mother was unconscious after taking substances, making Jonathan the only person able to help. He quickly called emergency services and tried to perform life-saving measures on his own, doing everything possible to keep his father alive until help arrived. Unfortunately, despite his efforts, his father passed away before the paramedics got there. Jonathan was just a child, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had somehow failed his father. This burden left him with a lasting emotional scar. It is surprising that, even though his mother struggled with alcoholism and banned substance abuse, no one took steps to remove the children from her care. They stayed with her, and John, still a teenager, took on the role of the household leader. They survived on the small savings left by their father. Despite the turmoil at home, John continued to perform well in school and was regarded as one of the top students in his class. Teachers often praised his intelligence, ambition, and quick thinking. However, his behavior outside of school began to change significantly. He became anxious, unpredictable. He easily angered, often getting into arguments and physical fights with his classmates. Jonathan began taking odd jobs at a young age to help support his family. During this time, he developed a deep interest in sports, particularly combat sports, and trained in various disciplines instead of sticking to just one. This training provided him a positive outlet for his aggression, helping him to clear his mind and maintain focus. Over the years, working out became an essential part of his life. He went to the gym daily, where his coach recognized his natural talent, leading many to believe he had the potential to succeed at the highest levels. Despite balancing work and school, Jonathan excelled in both and graduated high school with good grades, later enrolling at the Citadel. He was academically sharp, but his struggle with managing emotions, particularly anger, resulted in several encounters with the law, including multiple arrests. Jonathan majored in biology for 2 years but was expelled for poor behavior. As a teenager, Jonathan was determined to become a fighter and pursue a career in MMA. He trained relentlessly and participated in every competition available, frequently achieving top results. Over time, more people in the fighting community began to notice him. His name started to gain recognition, bringing him closer to turning professional. In 2000, at the age of 19, Jonathan chose to audition for a popular reality show called The Ultimate Fighter. This show, inspired by successful formats like Big Brother, quickly gained popularity among American viewers, but it had a unique twist. Instead of featuring everyday contestants, the show showcased actual MMA fighters competing for a chance to join the UFC. Initially, Jonathan was not selected. He was turned down during the casting process. However, shortly afterward, one of the chosen contestants sustained a serious injury and had to withdraw from the show. The producers rushed to find a replacement and revisited previous applicants, leading them to Jonathan's name, which they had initially overlooked. All contestants were placed in a large house equipped with multiple surveillance cameras in every room. They were not allowed to use phones, the internet, or have any contact with the outside world. The grand prize was $1 million. Each week, one participant was eliminated not through voting, but by losing one-on-one fights. The loser had to leave the show and go home. Like most reality TV shows, there was no strict script. Instead, spontaneity and genuine emotions were encouraged. John, known for his bold personality and confrontational style, quickly became a prominent figure on the show. Audiences loved his confidence. Jonathan rapidly gained a fan base, becoming a standout reality star. The Ultimate Fighter attracted more attention for the drama in the house than for the actual fights. Initially, it was purely a competitive sports series, but it transformed into a high-stakes reality show filled with intense confrontations, rivalries, and alliances. Contestants were often split into opposing teams. Jonathan became known for his fiery temperament and tendency to provoke others, often starting fights. His aggressive demeanor increased the tension in the house. The producers seemed to enjoy it. While fans supported him, Jonathan ultimately didn't make it to the finals, as he was eliminated in the 6th season. Although Jonathan did not win the competition, his time on the show brought him significant attention. His professional MMA career began to thrive, starting with a victory over Jared Rollins in his UFC debut. Fighting in the welterweight division, Jonathan participated in a total of 19 matches, achieving 14 wins. However, his life outside the ring began to unravel. His unpredictable behavior and difficulty managing his anger led to several legal issues. On September 22, 2007, he was arrested for assaulting a Las Vegas man after an argument over a parking space escalated into a physical confrontation. Reports indicate that Jonathan continued to hit the man until he lost consciousness. The victim filed charges, and Jonathan was arrested. Instead of expressing remorse, he gave a controversial interview claiming he had done the man a favor by not causing more harm. His remarks resulted in public outrage, branded him as volatile and dangerous. Ironically, this negative attention ended up benefiting his career. Jonathan embraced the persona of the villain, using his reputation to attract media coverage and gain popularity. His behavior reminded many of another controversial fighter, Conor McGregor, who is known for mixing sports achievements with off-ring issues. In mid-2008, Machine decided to change his name to War Machine, believing it reflected his personality and mindset well. The name sounded tough and intense, fitting for the world of full-contact sports he was involved in. That same year, Machine faced another controversy related to an assault. The situation began over a minor issue but quickly escalated to legal action. Many observers noted that Machine was on a dangerous path. He seemed to look for reasons to start fights and actively sought out confrontation. Even with the incidents and arrests, his professional MMA career continued to flourish. He participated in major events and secured numerous victories, gaining recognition in the MMA community. Before long, he was invited to fight in the UFC, the sport's top organization. He also received a Knockout of the Night award for his outstanding performance in the octagon. In 2009, Machine made an unexpected announcement. He intended to pursue acting, but not in a conventional way. He decided to join the adult entertainment industry. Thanks to his youthful looks, rugged, and athletic build, Machine made a notable impact on screen. His performances soon attracted a lot of attention, making his career in this field as discussed as his MMA achievements. During his first year, he appeared in 13 films, frequently working with established performers. He adeptly managed both his fighting and acting careers while securing various endorsement deals that generated substantial income. In August 2010, Machine was sentenced to 1 year in county jail for felony assault stemming from a fight at a bar in Point Loma earlier in the year, as well as another fight at a bar in Pacific Beach, San Diego. He was held in San Diego's George Bailey County Detention Facility. During his time in prison, Machine continued to exhibit confrontational behavior, leading to numerous altercations. This resulted in him being labeled as high risk and spending most of his sentence in solitary confinement. Observers began to realize that his aggression had evolved beyond a competitive attitude and was instead indicative of a significant behavioral issue. Some speculated that the pressures of fame or emotional instability might be contributing factors. After his release, Machine returned to the ring and achieved several impressive victories against tough competitors such as Roger Huerta, Blas Avena, and Vaughn Anderson. During this period, he started a personal blog and social media page to engage with his expanding fan base. His content was unique, often featuring him speaking directly to the camera. He's sharing his personal thoughts, reflections, and stories from his past. Within just a few days, tens of thousands of fans subscribed to his platform. His audience was varied. Some were interested in his fighting career, others in his experiences in the film industry, and many were drawn in by the controversy surrounding him since his early days on reality TV. In 2011, Machine launched his own line of athletic and casual clothing. His brand was notable for its bold graphics and aggressive slogans aimed at projecting an alpha male image. The products were primarily sold online and quickly became popular, contributing to the company's success. Machine maintained a confrontational demeanor, often discussed his struggles with anger in his video blogs. His language was often profane, and he frequently expressed frustration with people he found irritating, sometimes implying he would respond with violence if provoked. He even filmed himself getting into heated confrontations with strangers on the street. By 2013, Machine had achieved the height of his adult film career, frequently appearing in adult productions and taking part in bold photo shoots for popular magazines. During one of these shoots, he worked with a model named Christy Mack. Although she was 11 years younger than he, they had an instant connection and quickly developed a passionate relationship. Christy was born in 1992 in a small Indiana town. She grew up in a modest family with no connections to the entertainment industry. Her former classmates and teachers remember her as quiet, kind, and responsible. She had a passion for literature, took her studies seriously, and enjoyed dancing in her free time. During high school, Christy developed a romantic relationship with a classmate, and they decided to get married. Despite strong objections from both sets of parents about their young age, the couple went ahead with their plans as soon as they turned 18. Unfortunately, their marriage soon fell apart. They realized they were not ready for adult life. Love quickly faded. Just 4 months after getting married, they filed for divorce. After her breakup, Christy wanted to start anew and decided to leave her home for Florida. She moved to Miami and took whatever jobs she could find to pay her rent, make ends meet. She worked as a waitress, retail clerk, even took on promotional work. One day, a representative from a modeling agency noticed her. Initially, Christy did catalog shoots for fashion brands, but soon she was offered more provocative modeling jobs that paid much better. She accepted these opportunities, and before long, she began getting offers to act in adult films. She chose a memorable stage name that became well known. Christie quickly became a regular in adult film productions, including a notable parody based on a popular superhero franchise. Her work in the industry earned her several awards. In February 2013, she launched her first boutique that focused on intimate apparel and lifestyle accessories. The business quickly gained popularity, grew into a successful retail chain. When Machine and Christie first met, both were already prominent and successful figures in their fields. They had established careers in the media and each owned businesses that sold branded merchandise. Their popularity was quite similar. Right from the start of their relationship, they were frequently seen together at various events. They attended award shows, red carpet events, and industry parties, often stopping for photos, participating in joint interviews. They even secured a few endorsement deals as a couple with major brands. Within months, Machine and Christie became known as a glamorous and inseparable pair who seemed to have everything. They appeared happy, discussed their future plans. To outsiders, their lives looked perfect. Behind the scenes, things are getting worrying. Off camera, Machine was just as intense, unpredictable as he had been in the ring. In public, he acted like a devoted boyfriend, but privately, he was controlling and manipulative. He monitored Christie closely, showed extreme jealousy, frequently started arguments. His behavior escalated to outright aggression over time. Christie suffered from regular emotional and physical abuse. He would insult her, make threats, and there were several instances where he reportedly put his hands around her neck in moments of rage. During one of these events, her mother, who was visiting, saw it happen. Shocked, she urged Christie to leave Machine right away. Machine had a quick temper and often exploded without warning. Once, during a heated argument in the car, he suddenly slammed on the gas and drove straight toward a wall, shouting that he would take them both down with him. Christie barely managed to grab the steering wheel in time to avoid a crash. In another similar situation, she quickly unbuckled her seatbelt and jumped out of the car at a red light. Although Christie tried to end their relationship multiple times, Machine always found a way to pull her back in, pleading for another chance and promising to change. Deep down, she understood there was no future with him, but she was scared. She didn't know how to leave without triggering one of his violent outbursts. She endured this for a year, carefully considering her options. In April 2014, Christie finally found the courage to have an important conversation. She prepared herself for a difficult reaction, but to her surprise, Machine calmly agreed that they should take a break. He expressed understanding and seemed willing to give her the space she needed. Although it seemed he had accepted the decision, that was only a facade. During the first month after the breakup, Christie felt constantly anxious, fearing that Machine might come back to stalk her. Thankfully, nothing of the sort occurred. As time went on, her anxiety lessened, and she gradually returned to her normal life. By July, she started dating a new guy named Corey Thomas. On August 8, 2014, Christie and Corey were in her Las Vegas apartment, lying in bed. Without warning, Jonathan, who had a key he never returned, entered quietly, attacked Corey. He struck Corey repeatedly with his fists and bit him multiple times, causing severe injuries to Corey's face, shoulders, and chest. Jonathan then straddled Corey and began to choke him. Terrified, Christine intervened when she saw Corey start to lose consciousness. Machine suddenly released his grip, pulled Corey by the hair, threatened him, saying he had to leave and couldn't call the police or he would finish what he started. Frightened, Corey promised not to tell anyone. He quickly gathered a few belongings, fled the apartment while still getting dressed. True to his promise, he didn't report the incident, which almost ended in tragedy for Christie. After Jonathan was alone with his ex-girlfriend Christie, a terrible situation unfolded. He physically assaulted her for over 2 hours, inflicting severe physical and emotional harm. By the end of the attack, Christie was left badly injured, near unconsciousness. Thinking she had lost consciousness, Jonathan moved to another room. In a determined effort, Christie managed to crawl to the window, open it, and fall out. Luckily, the apartment was on the ground floor, so she didn't suffer fatal injuries. She began to scream for help. Nearby neighbors quickly responded by calling emergency services. Christy sustained serious injuries. Jonathan had broken her nose, cheekbone, and jaw, knocked out 12 teeth, and nearly damaged one of her eyes. Additionally, she had broken ribs, a ruptured kidney, liver injuries. She lost a significant amount of blood and was diagnosed with a concussion. Her body was covered in bruises, cuts, abrasions, and bite marks. Despite these severe injuries and blood loss, doctors managed to stabilize Christy's condition. Jonathan had already vanished. His location stayed unknown for a week until August 15th, when he began posting on social media to share his perspective and portray himself as the victim. Authorities were able to trace his phone signal, quickly found and arrested him. Notably, Corey called the police 3 hours after the attack, during which Christy was already hospitalized. In those hours, she suffered severe abuse that nearly took her life. Some people believed Corey should have been legally responsible for not reporting the incident sooner, but he stated that he was in shock and afraid for his own safety. Ultimately, no charges were brought against him. He only testified in court as a victim. While in custody awaiting his trial, Jonathan attempted to end one's own life. He made a makeshift noose from a bed sheet and tried to hang himself in his cell. Luckily, the guards arrived in time and prevented him from succeeding. This incident delayed the court proceedings by almost 3 months. During the trial, Jonathan tried to present himself as a victim. He argued that his partner had betrayed him, claiming that this betrayal led to his emotional outburst. His defense attorney spoke extensively about Jonathan's difficult childhood and personal struggles, hoping to gain the court's sympathy for a lighter sentence. In March 2017, Jonathan was convicted of 29 felony counts of abuse, kidnapping, domestic violence, and other crimes after assaulting and beating his ex-girlfriend, Christy Mack, and her then-boyfriend Corey Thomas. In June 2017, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years. Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, known as War Machine, fell from a charismatic MMA star and reality TV figure to a convicted felon, his legacy tarnished by violence in Las Vegas. His 2014 assault on Christy Mack and Corey Thomas left them with severe physical and enduring trauma. Convicted in 2017 of 29 felonies, including kidnapping and sexual assault, he was sentenced to 36 years to life, with no parole possible before 2053, Web 0, Web 7. This case underscores the catastrophic cost of uncontrolled rage, reminding us that justice, though served, cannot undo the pain inflicted on survivors striving to reclaim their lives.